Live NFL trivia every Wednesday night on Twitch at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come show off your football knowledge for a chance to win cash prizes. Check the link in the description to find out more. And now, on with our feature presentation. I want you to imagine this scenario. You're getting ready to sit on the couch and watch an NFL game take place. You know exactly what game you're going to be getting, the station is advertising said game, and the newspaper says what game you're going to be getting. Understandably, you're getting the game featuring the most popular team in your region. Now you're getting ready for the game to start, the studio host of whatever pregame show you're watching takes you out to your game, and it's not the same game that you thought. Because as it turns out, the network affiliate messed up big time. They completely dropped the ball, and they showed a completely different game than the one they said they were going to air. Well, for residents and football fans of Bangor, a city in Maine, that's exactly what they had to deal with in 1999, thanks to the absolutely incompetent work of a station manager over at their CBS affiliate, WABI. Because while everyone thought that the New York Giants were going to be the team on television for the state to see, when 1 o'clock rolled around on Sunday, December 5th, 1999, they were treated to a completely different game that did not involve the Giants at all. And not only were fans furious about this, but let's just say that when you throw in some additional backstory, this saga gets even crazier than you might have originally thought. This is the story behind one of the worst decisions made by a CBS affiliate in NFL history. Before I talk about the controversy in question, we need some context to not only understand the game that they were supposed to air, but understand Bangor's history with televising programs in the first place. Because I promise you that as bad as you think this decision is just by hearing the description, it's going to get a million times worse when you hear what happened 1 week before. Now this game took place on December 5th, 1999, but to fully tell this story, we actually have to go back 1 week before to Saturday, November 27th, and we have to talk about college football for a bit. On this day, there was a big matchup in the SEC between the Vanderbilt Commodores and the Tennessee Volunteers. Not only was this a big matchup to determine supremacy in the state, as this was a big rivalry game, but this was a monumental matchup for both teams in terms of their future fate. For Vanderbilt, a win here would make them bowl eligible. They entered this game at 5-5. This was a team that had not finished the regular season with a winning record since 1982, had not made a bowl game since making the Hall of Fame Bowl in 1982, and had not won a bowl game since the Gator Bowl back in 1955. If Vanderbilt could win this one and pull off the upset, then for the first time in nearly 2 decades, they would be going bowling. As for Tennessee, even though they couldn't win the SEC East and they were mathematically eliminated from playing in Atlanta for the SEC Championship, this was a must-win game if they wanted to play in a BCS game. Right now, they were 8-2. They were having a great season by being ranked inside the top 10 of the AP poll the whole year, and they easily had the resume to play in one of those marquee games. But good luck getting a 3-loss team into a BCS bowl. This game was going to air at 12:30 p.m. Eastern on CBS, with a pregame show at 12 o'clock. And this was a nationally televised game, so the entire country was getting it. Now WABI, the CBS affiliate in Bangor, had a policy that they did not air college football games on Saturdays that started at 3:30. And the reason for that was because they coveted that 6 o'clock news slot. In the eyes of WABI, the news got high ratings, college football was not exactly a big deal in Maine, the state had no attachment to any of the teams involved, and it wouldn't be right to deny people the opportunity to learn about what was happening in their community and mess up the programming schedule just to air a college football game between two teams hundreds or even thousands of miles away. It's the same justification that was given for years by the ABC affiliate in Seattle when they tape delayed their broadcasts of Monday Night Football for an hour, which led to a ton of backlash and criticism, especially after one particularly infamous incident in 1983 where viewers of the game between Dallas and Washington got the results spoiled. You can learn more about that by clicking the card in the upper right corner. When it came to WABI, this meant that if there was an SEC game on CBS taking place at 3:30, it would not be shown, because college football games take longer than 2.5 hours to complete, and those games would overlap with the news. Heck, knowing how long SEC on CBS games take place in particular, those games can take 5 hours to complete, so no way was a 3:30 game going to be over by 6 o'clock. However, for this Tennessee-Vanderbilt game, because it was a 12:30 start, there was no doubt that it was going to be over by 6 o'clock. And because of this, WABI was scheduled to show the game. They advertised that the game would be televised. And here's the local newspaper in Bangor flat out saying that this Tennessee-Vanderbilt game was going to be televised. And for the people in Bangor who wanted to watch this game and get their college football fix, when 12:30 rolled around, they were greeted to this.
Are you among the thousands who are living paycheck to paycheck, just getting by, making payments on debts and credit cards?
Wait a sec. That's not the SEC on CBS Music.
In the next 30 minutes, you'll find out the answer is yes.
Those aren't football players.
Imagine having all your bills paid off with extra money and credit to buy a new car.
Is this an infomercial? Oh my god, this is an infomercial. This is legitimately an infomercial! The CBS affiliate, instead of airing the college football game that they said they were going to, was airing an infomercial about car loans. Are they crazy? What are they doing? People tuned into your network to learn about how the bowl picture was going to play out. And instead, they're learning about how they can get a car loan with poor credit. Now, it's not like they missed much. The game itself was not very good, as Tennessee crushed Vanderbilt by a final score of 38-10, ending Vanderbilt's season on a whimper and sending Tennessee to bowl season with tons of momentum on their side. But still, how could they do this? Turns out, the WABI program director, Steve Hiltz, made a major mistake. His explanation was, quite simply, I don't know. I must have missed that one. As he said, I don't know what happened. I think it was probably an oversight. I think what happened was I missed it on the initial program schedule and scheduled the infomercial. Dude, you literally had one job. As the program director, you should know what programs you're supposed to be airing. It's not that hard. And considering the fact that literally every other CBS affiliate in America knew to pick this game up besides you, that is a major oversight on your end. Being a program director is a lot like being an air traffic controller at an airport. Yes, you're in charge of the airwaves around your region, and you're responsible for a lot of people 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. But most importantly, even though your job is super important, no one should know your name or who you are. If they know your name, odds are you messed up pretty badly somewhere along the way. As a side note, if you want to watch more college football history content, I have a college football channel now called Jaguar Gator 8, which you can go to by clicking the card in the upper right corner. But after this debacle, WABI was already on thin ice with sports fans in the area. Not only are you not going to air late afternoon games, but the one time you actually have a game that fits your time slot preference, you forget that it's even on, and you air an infomercial instead. So why do I bring this incident up? Because literally 1 week later, when it came to the NFL, sure enough, WABI dropped the ball yet again. Let's talk a bit about the NFL scene up in Bangor. Obviously, Maine does not have any NFL team, and they don't even have any teams in any of the major sporting leagues across the country. So in Bangor, a city with a population somewhere around 30,000 people, and the third most populated city in the state, only behind Lewiston and Portland, what team do they support primarily? Well, it seems that the main one back in 1999 was the New York Giants, and it made sense as to why this was the case. Obviously, by no means is Bangor close to East Rutherford. It's roughly a 7-hour drive comprising 450 miles if you want to make the trek to see them play. But the Giants were one of the closest teams to the city, and were the closest NFC team by a fairly substantial margin. Additionally, the Giants were tied with the Jets for the second closest team to the city, with the New England Patriots and Foxborough roughly 275 miles away being the closest. In an extremely loose definition of the term, the Giants were the local team. And the Giants had history on their side contributing to the large contingency of Giants fans residing in the area. People enjoyed watching the Giants on television back in the 1980s and during the 1990s. They were regulars in the postseason under Bill Parcells, they made it to the Super Bowl twice, and while they definitely had their down years, they were never downright awful, which I'm defining as 4-12 or worse since 1983. And there was an older generation of fans in Bangor from the 1950s, when the Giants, for some reason, played a preseason game there against the Green Bay Packers, while the Giants were one of the most successful teams in football. The high school football stadium there expanded its bleachers section from 3,000 seats to 18,000 seats for the game. And while the NFL never came back to Bangor, the Giants left enough of an impression on some people that they became Giants fans, and they passed their fandom down through the years. In short, if you were an NFL fan in Bangor, there was a good chance that you were a fan of the New York Football Giants. And the Giants had a big game coming up in Week 13 against the New York Jets. Aside from the fact that this was a battle for supremacy in the New York metropolitan area and for Giants Stadium, as it's always fun anytime the Giants and Jets are playing each other, this game was massive when it came to the playoff picture for the Giants. They were 5-6, and were 2 games back of Washington for the division lead with 5 games to go. However, New York lost both of their games, so they didn't own the tiebreaker. Their chances of winning the NFC East were fairly slim, but the wild card was well in reach, as there were a bunch of teams hovering around the 6-5 and 5-6 mark for that final spot. There was a highly realistic chance that 8-8 would be good enough to make it into the field. So if the Giants could win this game and position themselves to be 500 with 4 games to go, especially since 2 of those remaining 4 games were against teams in that wildcard chase, they would be in a pretty good spot to make it to the playoffs under head coach Jim Fossil for the second time in 3 years. As a side note, to learn more about the career of Fossil, click the card in the upper right corner. The stakes for this game have been set and have been established, and the CBS affiliate in Bangor, WABI, made it very clear that they were going to air the Giants game. Because the Jets were the road team, even though it's really only a technicality since the game was being held in their home stadium, this was a CBS game. Here is a newspaper TV listing guide from that day that, much like the Tennessee-Vanderbilt game a week before, showed that CBS was going to air this Jets-Giants game. And when you consider the stakes of the game and the popularity of the Giants in Bangor, yeah, it seemed like a no-brainer. On December 5th, at 1 o'clock, the football fans in Bangor sat down on their couches and turned on their TVs to watch their Giants play, just as advertised. And after that, NFL on CBS music played, and as they were fully geared up to watch the action unfold, they were greeted to this.
We welcome you to Pro Players Stadium in Miami for this early December meeting on a warm but blustery day.
Wait a sec. That's not the Jets-Giants game.
Very comfortable December day in Miami, 73 degrees, winds gusting a little more than the 10 miles per hour.
That doesn't look like the Meadowlands.
This is the latest in the season Indianapolis has led the division since 1987.
Is this the wrong game? Oh my god, they did it again. This is the wrong game. Are you kidding me? You screwed this up again? Not even 1 week after royally fumbling the Tennessee-Vanderbilt broadcast by airing an infomercial, you decided to not even air the Giants game? Even though this is what you advertised? How do you screw this up twice in 8 days? Can you imagine liking football in Bangor and being forced to suffer through this program manager's incompetence, where the manager seemingly has no idea what football is or what the schedule is even supposed to say? I guess Giants fans in the area were happy with how the game turned out, as the Giants ended up winning this one by a final score of 41-28. Turns out, this was a complete demolition that was in no way whatsoever as close as the scoreboard might indicate. The Giants jumped out to a 17-0 lead after the first quarter, they led at 27-7 at the half, they led at 34-7 after 3 quarters, and they had a 41-21 lead with 5 seconds left in the game. The funny part is that if you told Jets fans before the game that their starting quarterback, Ray Lucas, would throw 4 touchdowns and no interceptions, they would have gladly taken that. In the end, it might have been the worst 4-touchdown no-pick game in NFL history. And I guess neutral NFL fans were happy in the area that they didn't get to witness the blowout, and instead got to witness an incredibly competitive and meaningful game for first place in the AFC East between the Indianapolis Colts and the Miami Dolphins, as the Colts won 37-34 on a 53-yard field goal by Mike Vanderjagt with no time left. The funny part is that, just looking at this more than 20 years later from a neutral perspective, if we're strictly looking at this from the entertainment side of things, WABI made the right call airing Colts Dolphins over Giants Jets. But the main question that everyone had after that Sunday game was, quite simply, how did they show the wrong game yet again? It forced program manager Steve Hiltz to speak to the press yet again and deliver another explanation about what went wrong. By this point, Hiltz was becoming the most recognized and infamous figure in the state. And once again, Hiltz took responsibility, saying, "That schedule should have been corrected. I jumped the gun when we put that in, and CBS's assignment gave us Indianapolis-Miami instead." Hiltz then added on the decision in one of the most wishy-washy statements of all time, "It may have been wrong, it may have been right, but that was our call." Could you make a case for the Giants game? Yes, probably. Did you get Billy Joel to write that statement? You may be right, I may be crazy. But wait a sec. I thought you just said that CBS gave you the Colts Dolphins game and you forgot to change it and notify everyone that the schedule changed. Now you're saying that it was your call? Which one is it? Do you have any idea what you're doing? I realize that the population of Bangor is about 30,000 people, and obviously not all 30,000 people are football fans, so this only impacted a relatively small number of people compared to other broadcasting controversies that I've talked about before on this channel in cities like San Francisco, Philadelphia, and Detroit. But this is still remarkable. Incompetence is still incompetence, no matter how many people it's affecting, and no matter how many people are being impacted by it. Now you would think after 2 massive screw-ups like that in the span of a week, that Hiltz would be looking for a different line of employment. But nope, he is still with the company to this day, and has been with the company for 41 years. He was the program director at the company all the way until 2017, at which point he became the creative services director, which is where he resides today. More power to him, staying at the same job for 40 plus years and working his way up the ladder. But his career arc is somewhat crazy to think about, considering what happened in that stretch in 1999. So if there are any program directors watching this video, here's a quick word of advice. Make sure that you know what game you're airing. Make sure that you actually show football when you're supposed to show football, and you don't show an infomercial by mistake instead. And make sure that if you're supposed to televise the most popular team in the region, that you don't air a different team and catch everyone by surprise literally 1 minute before kickoff. Because during week 13 in the 1999 season, from a television perspective, this controversy surrounding the main CBS station became the main event. Get your official Jaguar Gator 9 merchandise by going to jg9shop.com, and be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, and subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out Twitch every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at Jaguar Gator 9. To see college football videos, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 8. To see highlight videos of players throughout the history of the NFL, subscribe to JG9 Highlights. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. So you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.